Welcome back to Tweet Trends. Today, I'm so excited. I have Myrna Laine-Hyppolite with me today, and she is a financial coach and she has got the tea for you. So get your pencil out, get some paper, and be ready to write down some notes because I'm telling you, she knows what she's talking about. So without further ado, hey there, Myrna, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So you are a financial coach, right?
Yes, I am.
What what brought you to that profession? How did you even know that that was the lane that you needed to be in?
Well, first of all, I do want to say that my company is called Empower Financial Wellness. And what I do is I help women, high achieving women, remove the overwhelm from managing their finances, build wealth, and also learn the first steps to confident investing in the stock market. So I started my company towards the end of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. And why did I start the company is because I saw a lot of my friends, I see a lot of family members, they were in, let's say, relationships where essentially they built something with someone for a number of years, and then the love of their lives all of a sudden becomes their worst nemesis. And then they're in a situation where after 20 plus years in a relationship, kids and so forth, they had nothing to show for it because when they were in the relationship, they didn't track their assets. They didn't know what was going on. They put their head in the sand. They said, oh, you can go take care of the finances. I'll take care of the kids. No, if you're a woman, you need to be involved, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're by yourself, you need to be able to understand your finances, manage your finances, do whatever you need to do to remove the overwhelm from managing your finances, because at the end of the day, you deserve to build your own wealth, right? And so seeing that I had so many people that, were coming to me and say, hey, Myrna, I don't really know about investing, or, they were in those relationships. I decided, it was time to do something. And Empower Financial Wellness was founded on the premise of trying to educate women and help them build their sense of financial wellness.
Wow. So you say that, and I can remember a while back, oh, a long time ago, I worked at the phone company and we used to do collections on delinquent bills. And I called this elderly lady one day and she put down some crying on that phone because her husband had just passed and she didn't know a thing. And for me, I looked at that as an older person problem, like old school thought process, like the man makes the money and the man does all that and the women takes care of the house. But I'm seeing now though, and you verified that younger people are going through that as well. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh. So do you find that that's something that maybe for the woman who was never on their own, like they went straight from their parents' home to getting married, or is it pretty much just
No,
anyone?
it's pretty much any woman. It doesn't have to be somebody who went. I mean, these were women that I'm talking about that went on their own, that went to college and did what they needed to do, that are very highly educated, but didn't necessarily want to deal with money and shied away from dealing with their money, or felt that it was best to let, their spouses handle their money. So, and they were just not informed, because there tends to be that thing that money is, it's too complicated, I can't manage it. And it all starts with mindset, really. Believing that you can manage your money is step number one, because what you believe you attract.
Mm, amen. Say that one again. What you believe you attract. Oh my gosh, gems already. So now I'm not even gonna lie. Stock market to me is a bit scary, for lack of better words. And I think it's just that level of risk. I'll do a mutual fund or any of those other things way before I thought about the stock market. And I kind of dabble in it now. But just the idea, it's almost like gambling to me. I'm like, oh gosh, picking it and things like that. And that's one of the things that I kind of want to work on with my daughter. They have like the stock market game where they follow a stock and see how it goes. And And I wish somebody had done that with me when I was younger, because I feel like I'm a day late and a dollar short.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's very important to start young. I started with, my own children. I have two children, a 17-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. Starting with them, having open for them custodial accounts so that they can start to trade and understand what happens, and they can see what's happening with the individual stocks. In terms of resources for any moms out there, Fidelity Investments has a youth account that you can open for your child, and they can do transactions, debits, stocks, transactions, manage their money, etc. And they have a good education platform where the kids, they break down the concepts into very, very manageable terms. Like they talk about investing kind of like planting a seed, right, and seeing that seed grow. So they break that down into concepts that kids can actually understand. But I think that one of the things that keeps many people away from investing and makes it like scary territory, as you mentioned, is that there are a lot of myths surrounding investing that people just believe, but they're actually myths. So one, there's a myth that you need a lot of money to invest, right? You need to have, a couple thousand, I need to have, a good chunk of money to invest. That's not true. These days, you can open an investment account with no minimum, right? You don't need to have a minimum balance. You don't have to have a specific amount of money, and you can put money in. You got $5, you can trade. You $10, you can buy something. $20, whatever it may be. You just need to start somewhere. So that's a misconception, because with as little as $5 a day, the cost of maybe a Frappuccino at Starbucks or a Big Mac meal at McDonald's, well, they're probably more expensive now with inflation. But for that cost, you can invest and end up, in a 40-year time period with almost $1 million with as little as $5 a day. So it's a myth that you need a lot of money. Plus now you can be in a situation where, depending on the brokerage house that you use, you can invest in fractional shares. So if there's a company like Tesla that is super, super expensive, and you can't afford to buy a share, you can buy a quarter of a share, you can buy a half a share. So that makes things a lot more affordable. So that's myth number one, that you need a lot of money. You don't. So you need to get in the game if that's what's stopping you. Myth number two is that you need to be that super uber analyst that's poring over the company's financial statements, right? Understanding the balance sheet, cash flow, ratios, etc. I used to be one of those analysts. I worked for an investment bank where I was on the sell side, essentially telling institutions, hey, this is why you should buy this stock. Here are the projections, et cetera, et cetera. There is information out there that you can leverage from these people that make a living, just like I did, analyzing balance sheet statements, so that you don't have to be that expert person understanding, because the information is publicly and readily available. So you don't need to be an expert in order to invest. And then the last misconception is that, oh, if I invest in the money in the market, I'm going to lose all my money. That's not true. Because right now it may feel like it. It may feel like it, because if you're in the stock market took another hit today. And now like the Dow's like 29,000. So even me, I'm like, oh, that's not good. But you have to understand that there are periods of ups and downs. We went through a long period of ups. Now we're going through a period of down. So what you need to do is position yourself, right, to amass some cash so that you can invest when the time is right. So we've always seen historically that there's been downturns, but what goes down must come up.
Yes,
So
yes.
you've got to take comfort in that particular position and don't think that you're going to lose your money. So there are a lot of myths out there that need to be dispelled. And people need to understand that we as women tend to be better investors, and we really need to go out there and maximize and take advantage of every opportunity that exists for us to build wealth.
Wow. So you like called me out on at least two of those myths. And it was something that was stuck there for a long time. And I eventually was like, you know what? I have to make a move. It's not going to go away, and I'm not getting any younger. So I did do, I invested like $10 in maybe 8 different stocks. And kind of like what you said, I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, I done lost almost all of my little $10 investments. But it was only $10. So I can't be upset like I'm about to lose my house, because I'm not.
Right.
I used what I had that I felt comfortable losing.
Right.
And like you said, it's going down now, but it can't go down forever. It's got to turn back around and go up. So you just kind of
Exactly.
tighten your seatbelt and hold on for the ride, because yeah.
Exactly.
So with all of that, I love the fact that you are female focused in finances. And in talking with you and listening to you on Clubhouse, you made mention of your view of finances as being a form of self-care. And when you said that, it was like that was the magnet that drew me directly to you. I'm like, that's mind blowing. Like, but it makes so much sense. So how did you come across that as the site? Because like I said, that's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Oh, great. Well, I think financial wellness is really, really important. And that's really what I center, the whole company. It's really looking at your financial well-being as a whole. So we as women, we do things like we go, get manicures, we go get massages, we do Netflix and chill. All of those things are things that enhance our sense of well-being. Well, if your
Mhm.
finances are in order, you're not going to feel well. I don't care, what you're driving. I don't care what you're doing. If your finances are not in order, you are not going to feel well. So that's a major pillar in terms of your sense of wellness. So you need to include that as part of your self-care regimen, right? It doesn't take a lot, make a money date with yourself. Look and assess and examine your statements, see what's happening with your money. Set financial goals. Are you on track to hit those financial goals? One of the things I talked about yesterday is really looking on a Facebook Live that I did, is really looking at your financial goals. We're halfway through the year. What financial goals did you set? Are you on track? If you're not on track, get yourself on track, figure out what you need to do, write them down, and be specific about it. So having your finances in order helps enhance your sense of wellness, helps reduce your sense of stress. I think us as women, we really need to focus on what that means for us to be financially well. And why that's important is because, one, we are already starting at a deficit. We have a pay gap. There's a gender pay gap. This is not news to anybody, but it's definitely a gender pay gap. We make less than the average man for the same work, right? And if we're a woman of color, you're a Black woman, then that means that it's even lower amount, because I think it's about 80 cents for every dollar for women in general. For Black women, it's like 60 cents. So we are already at an economic disadvantage. So it behooves us really to take care of our finances, because you're dealing with that factor that we cannot really affect. Second is that women tend to outlive men. So the average life expectancy of a woman in the United States is 81 years old. For a man, it's 76 years old. So if you are with a companion and you're expecting that companion to take care of you, that man might potentially die off, and you're still going to be there, and you're going to wonder what the heck has happened to the money. So we really need to be able to look at our finances. And then three, with the pandemic, with COVID, there's been a lot of displacement. Now you're talking about a potential recession that we may go into. So we really need to take a hard look at our finances and look at that in the context of how our financial well-being is going to evolve.
The reason why that resonates so much with me is that prior to getting married, excuse me, I dated a guy, and both of his parents had their own businesses. And it was like he did not understand finances. He had lived off of his credit card for like a semester in college and was only paying back the minimum balance. And one day he was at my house and he was looking and was like, well, how is it that you're going to pay that whole credit card bill? And I'm like, I made that whole bill. I own up to that. I'm going to pay it off and not worry about accruing any other charges. And he's like, well, I lived off that card, my last semester, and it seems like the bill's not going anywhere. And so I was like, so what are you doing? Are you paying? And he's like, yeah. Well, how much are you paying? The minimum balance. And it was like, oh my gosh. And I could not, like you said, about feeling comfortable with your finances. I didn't feel comfortable with that relationship anymore, because in my mind, I was like, I can't marry you and you don't know anything about finances, that you can't even pay off a credit card good because you're worried about feeling broke. He was like, aren't you going to feel like you don't have any money if you pay all that? I made the bill. So I deserve to feel broke if, I spent the money. And that was just like the beginning of the end. I was like, oh, okay, let me find my way out of this relationship, because I can't. Yeah. I can't with you.
Yeah.
Wow. So for old me and other people out there, tell me about your programs that you have out there, because they are amazing.
Great. I do have 2 group coaching programs. I find that the group coaching program approach works very well, because when we get together as a group, you kind of hear other people's issues and challenges, bounce ideas off of each other. So it's a group coaching program. I have 2 group coaching programs. One of them is called Unleash the Inner Investor in You. And that's more of an investing 101 program. It's a 5-week program where we meet once a week, for Q&A, and you get, course materials, etc. And it's really much going through the basics of investing. We start off with, what do you need to know? What types of investment vehicles there are? What type of investor are you? Because investment is kind of like, food. People have different tastes. I might say I like spicy food. You might not like spicy food. So you need to understand where you are in the spectrum before you just jump in and say, I want to invest. Whereas you might be that type of person. You see a 20% move in your portfolio and you're ready to go out there and put yourself in front of a bus. So at the end of the day, you want to understand who you are and what type of investor you are. So we go through that. We go through how you go about picking a stock. How you go about looking at mutual funds, how you go about looking at exchange traded funds, how you build your own portfolio and investment plan based on your goals, horizon, and how much money you can put aside. And then we look at things that you need to look at when it comes to your retirement plan. Because if you have a retirement plan, no matter how old you are, you need to have an objective. When are you going to retire? And formulate the pieces to understand what that plan entails. So that's a 5-week program. So coming out of it, if you don't know how to invest, you're going to know how to invest, how to make your own decisions, and you're going to have a brokerage account set up. So that's the first program. Yes. The second program is my financial breakthrough coaching program. And that is a 12-week program. And that one is really dealing with building the foundational pieces for your finances. So we start off with doing an assessment, doing what I call a financial checkup. Same way you go to a doctor, they give you your blood pressure, your weight, all of those. We look at all of the different metrics that we need to look at as it relates to a financial checkup. And then once we move on from that, we look at budgeting, tracking your money, because 90% of my clients say, Myrna, I make good money, but I don't know where it goes. It comes in, it goes out, and I can't even track it. I don't know what happens. So we find your money, essentially. So that's a big piece of it. You find your own money, you set up a budget, which I know can be a 4-letter word for some people. But for me, budgeting is very flexible in nature, right? You have to figure out what works for you. If you're that spreadsheet person, you're that spreadsheet person. If you want to budget in buckets, you budget in buckets. I'm a finance person. I don't budget using a spreadsheet. I budget in buckets where I say 50% of my money is going towards my needs, things that I have to do, my mortgage, food, etc. 30% is going towards my wants, Amazon, what I want to go do, entertainment. 20% is going towards my future self, which is essentially investing, paying down debt, savings. So it's more of a bucket approach, whereas my husband, who's an accountant, he's fully about the spreadsheet. Every dollar has to have a spot, and if it doesn't, everybody better watch out. So we go through that process to figure out what budgeting method works for you. And then we move on to building a savings plan. From then, investing, where we cover 2 weeks, we do investing. So you learn the same things that some of the stuff that's learned in the Unleash the Inner Investor, but you're able to set up an investment account and do your own investing by the time you get out of the 12 weeks. And then we look at goals, because for me, and a big part of what I teach is you have one life to live. If you are working hard and you're making your money, you need to be able to realize the things that you want to accomplish in life with that money. You can't just be working to pay bills. You have to be able to apply that to your goals. If I want to do something in life, my money's got to help me do it. And so we help you put the pieces together to say, okay, what are those goals? And let's put a framework around how you're going to get there using the money that you have. And then by the end of the 12 weeks, you get a wealth management blueprint that says, okay, here, during the 12 weeks, we've done X, Y, and Z, and we've covered all of these aspects of the blueprint, but here are some of the other aspects that you may need to work on. But you have a roadmap and where you need to go to build different aspects of your wealth. So that's a 12-week program. And so coming out of that program, my clients have been able to increase their net worth, increase their investment accounts, increase their savings, because we've worked through that process throughout the whole 12 weeks.
Wow. So, wow. Okay. So all right. So you've got the programs. Where can they find you? Where can they get this information so they can sign up?
Okay. I can be reached on Instagram at Empower Financial Wellness. That's my Instagram handle. That's probably the best place to reach me. I can also be reached on Facebook, which is my name, Myrna Laine-Hyppolite, Laine-Hyppolite. So that's definitely where I can be reached if anybody has any questions. I also have a free Facebook group. It's a financial empowerment community for women. So if you contact me, I'd love for anybody to join. It's a safe space community where we talk about different things, women's earning power. I do Facebook Lives in there. People, comment. So it's a very good community where people talk about financial challenges, but it's a Facebook group for women only.
Awesome. And the key thing that she said in that last piece to remember is that we were not put on this earth to work for money to pay bills. We should have some goals and things that we want to do with this money. So if your pocketbook is not right, I recommend that you go right over to Facebook, Instagram, and check out Myrna. If you're on Clubhouse, you can find her there in some great groups with some great discussions going on. Yeah, you got to get your money right. That bottom line, everybody should have their money right, period.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Myrna, for joining me today for this episode. And I definitely, we need to talk. We need to talk. I appreciate you taking time out to join me, though.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me.